All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me for this presentation during Wisconsin Water Week. My name is Nancy Retana, as Tracy mentioned. I'm a grant specialist and development coordinator with the Kenosha County Division of Parks here in Kenosha in southeastern Wisconsin. And today I'll be talking about our project on the Pike River that flows within one of our county parks, Petrifying Springs Park. Just to give you a brief overview of what I'll be touching on a little bit, just discussing the Pike River watershed, talking about our park itself, where this restoration project has been ongoing, our goals for the project, and talking a little bit about how it's a multi-phase endeavor, some of the methodology involved, short-term immediate results that have been noted, and I'll talk about our partners that we've been collaborating with, along with the funding that we received for the project, some lessons learned, and some next steps. So briefly, just wanted to touch on the historic ecological communities that have been present within the Pike River watershed. Pre-settlement data from survey maps of 1835 noted a complex ecological environment that was initially noted with the presence of prairies and oak forests and marshland areas. Obviously, once settlement continued, there was a lot of dam cutting and channelization of the river, a lot of agricultural ditching. That's definitely changed the way that the Pike River watershed looks now. There are still some remnant ecological communities present, and that is our focus, to kind of restore our natural area to what it once was before. So there's still some remnant mesic and wet mesic prairies, and also some plants that are of special concern that have been deemed special concern by the DNR. And so the Pike River watershed, for those that aren't too familiar with it, it flows within Kenosha and Racine counties and drains an area of over 30,000 acres into Lake Michigan. The north and south branches meet within Petrifying Springs Park, which is a county park. And the majority of the land use of the land within the Pike River watershed is deemed agricultural use. So that's approximately 39% of the land that drains, followed by residential areas, and then open space or parkland, and then transportation with other uses within the 22%. So the streams, and specifically the Pike River watershed, is deemed to be of low water quality, and it's listed on the 303D impaired waters list from the DNR. And it was first placed on the list in 2012. There was significant amounts of total phosphorus loading in the river that was noted, and also the reason it was also added to the list was just due to the fact of that there were few fish species observed. And so that brings us to Petrifying Springs Park. It is our county park. And again, this is where the north and the south branches meet. The Pike River watershed management plan first came about as a planning concept back in 2011 and involved various stakeholders, including Root Pike Wind, Kenosha County Parks, UW Parkside, the DNR, and they followed specific guidelines that were provided by the EPA. And so this first initial management planning effort occurred in two phases, with the first phase just kind of engaging the local stakeholders and assessing the watershed as a whole, addressing challenges and threats, and kind of coming up with the vision and goals for the entire Pike River watershed. And then in the second phase, that's when more action was made. That's when more guidelines were followed that were provided by the EPA, until in 2013, it became an official EPA approved watershed restoration plan. The reach that I'll be focusing on today flows through Petrifying Springs Park. It is identified as reach number 11 in the management plan, and it is deemed a critical area of concern because of the highly eroded stream banks, and also the areas of stormwater point discharge, as a lot of water filters through from the parkway, and also a golf course that's on site. So the current conditions of the Pike River definitely eroded stream banks, very high in some areas. There's noted high sediment loading, as well as steep slopes, a lot of random debris jams. And within the riparian habitat, there's a lot of invasive species that are inhibiting the growth of the natural areas right there. So there's a lot of channel widening. And as I mentioned previously, along the entire Pike River watershed, there's a lot of farming land there. And historically, there's been a lot of ditching and channelization of the river stream banks. So Kenosha County, again, has taken a huge interest in the Pike River restoration since 2011, when the watershed management planning effort came to fruition. 2011, Kenosha County invested in a natural resource inventory focusing on the Pike River within PETS. And then in 2012, following recommendations from the management plan, a dam was removed within Petrifying Springs Park to facilitate fish passage, and also a bridge was constructed. So the immediate effects of this, it definitely improved flooding events within the park, but a lot of sediment issues still remained, water quality issues. And so ever since this planning effort, Kenosha County has invested time and resources and has sought grant funding to pursue restoration, as was outlined in the management plan. So in 2017 is when we got a huge grant fund award to conduct phase 1 efforts. And in 2018, we started a trail plan development that would go hand in hand with this Pike River restoration effort. Just because the trail development will also alleviate the amount of pedestrians walking along the restoration site, but also allow for accessibility and a better view shed for park users. And something interesting to note, and I'll talk a little bit further on, in 2019, Kenosha County entered into a land use agreement with the University of Wisconsin System, UW Parkside, to further expand our restoration efforts into Parkside campus area, which abuts Petrifying Springs Park. So this multi-phase project, originally 3 phases, is now 6 phases. On top of that, we've been collaborating with Parkside just for overall natural resource inventory and development of the comprehensive trail plan. And so the approach on the goals of this, Kenosha County worked with consultants, did a lot of assessments and planning in order to come up with a restoration technique that would positively benefit a natural area with minimal impact. So the meander and bend of the river was changed to improve just the overall geometry of it. And the goals were to kind of maximize the use of natural materials and improve aquatic and other community habitat, and just to come up with something that would be low maintenance and maintainable and efficient. And so, like I mentioned previously, originally this was a 3-phase project. So this is a map of the river that flows within Petrifying Springs Park. Phase 1 was completed in 2018, and that encompassed a 3,145 linear foot stream reach with 5 acres of riparian habitat and a 3-acre wetland restored. Again, we were able to accomplish this thanks to being awarded a $500,000 EPA Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant, along with a $200,000 grant from the Fund for Lake Michigan. And this offset Kenosha County match, which was used to fund the rest. I believe the project was $1.2 million in total. Phase 2 planning is currently underway. We are awaiting pending grant approvals in order to do the second phase of the project, which will address a 3,280 linear foot reach and about 5 acres of riparian habitat to be restored. Phase 3 is design and engineering is anticipated to start, I believe, in 2022. Again, we're right now in the planning of just seeking funds and applying for that, to fund that. And lastly, in order for this project, for us to ensure the successful establishment of not only the native vegetation, but the impact of the project, Kenosha County funded a long-term maintenance plan that includes monthly site assessments, natural resource management, so regular treatment of any invasives that may pop up, and just prescribed mowing and whatever may be necessary. So part of this project, there was a lot of different things that occurred. Some Instream structures that were installed within phase 1 included rock riffles, wing deflectors, and boulder clusters. Basically, these structures would provide energy dissipation of the water while also improving channel stability and then reintroducing aquatic habitat, enabling spawning of fish. And then the bank treatments were conducted as you noted in the current conditions photos. Slopes had to be regraded, rock toe and toe wood were used to just stabilize the revetment. Vegetative plantings, erosion control matting was installed also to just stabilize banks. And again, native vegetation was replanted and is still being monitored just to avoid invasives, with again repairing habitat being restored with the planting of vegetation. And another part of this project was water sampling. We partnered with UW Parkside, and environmental science students have been conducting water sampling within the project site just for us to kind of establish a baseline data of before implementation, during implementation, and after implementation, just so we could quantitatively assess the impact of our restoration work. So it's just interesting to note what the site looked before, during, and after construction. Some significant changes were made even just in one construction season. And if you're ever in the area, I highly suggest it. I was out there yesterday. It's absolutely beautiful. And so, as mentioned previously, we were doing water monitoring of the site with UW Parkside. Short-term data they were able to collect for 2 years, and then at a standstill last year because of COVID, but we're hoping to resume that this year. And the short-term data that they had collected using a probe and their own lab analysis and us sending some stuff to the state hygiene lab noted a reduction in both phosphorus and nitrogen in the water by 55 and 44%. For our own planning purposes, we conducted a modeling using the Stepple formula, or the spreadsheet tool for estimating pollutant load, using all our parameters that we had established. And overall, we've estimated that approximately 527 tons of sediment will be removed, along with 368 pounds of phosphorus to be avoided in Lake Michigan. Another result, just overall public awareness. Kenosha County Parks collaborated with Root Pike Win and the Sierra Club, the local chapter, to conduct some public forum meetings during the project. We just invited the public to come learn more about the project. That was a good experience. They were pretty well attended. And also on our end, we did a lot of press to just kind of showcase not only our funders, but just the impact that this project will have. And we even placed some permanent interpretive signage on site to just educate others or the public on the importance of maintaining this wildlife habitat and our restoration efforts. And as part of the project itself, there was the Instream Structures installation of more fishing accessibility. There's been more fishermen noted on site. So overall, quantitatively and short-term data, qualitatively, I've just suggested a positive result from this phase 1 effort. Again, this project couldn't have been completed without the support of local stakeholders. and the overall long-term investment of Kenosha County. So yes, for phase one, we were awarded a significant grant from the EPA, GLRI, and the Fund for Lake Michigan. We've worked closely with the Wisconsin DNR, not only for regulatory coordinating with permitting, but also with Greg Helker. He's been our main point of contact, like with data analysis and also permitting. And we were awarded a grant from the WDNR Surface Water Program for phase two work. With UW Parkside, again, this project kind of has promoted or enabled more collaboration with our neighbors. They have, I guess, over 100 acres of natural land that abuts Petrifying Springs Park that has not ever really been developed. So this provides us with an opportunity to expand the restoration efforts into that campus while also managing their natural resources and just improving the overall local area and furthering more opportunities for passive recreation. And with Root Pike Wind also, they've been they're a huge proponent of improving water quality, and a great partner with us as well. And they're always hosting public education outreach events, and we're happy to collaborate with them. And so lessons learned with any capital project, anything outdoors. In the beginning of the project, there were weather delays. It was like 2018 or 2017. There was it was a big rainy season. So construction was pushed back from what it originally was supposed to be. And that kind of caused a little bit of stress, especially with permit requirements and having to do work in a certain time frame. Luckily, we were able to get past that and everything worked fine. Along with that rainy season, there was some stormwater events that created some 6-inch silt on top of erosion matting. So that was kind of like we had to go back to, or the engineers had to go back to the drawing board and kind of assess that impact during phase one efforts. And then lessons learned, just us being transparent with the public and sharing as much information as possible. And I believe it's definitely led to some positive public relations and like press releases, social media endeavors has definitely been great to see the increased use of this area. And so the next steps, as I mentioned previously, Kenosha County entered into the land use agreement with UW Parkside. So further planning from a 3-phase restoration project to a 6-phase restoration project is now underway or will be underway. The land use agreement also includes natural resource inventory or natural resource management, which will include an inventory, and also a comprehensive trail development that will expand from Petrifying Springs Park through UW Parkside area. So again, the importance of trails that will be planned in conjunction with this Pike River restoration work. The trails will act as a buffer and keep pedestrians off these naturally sensitive areas, but also kind of improve the visibility on the river's edge for people. Phase 2 implementation, again, we are pending grant awards and approvals, and we are hoping to get that going soon, with phase 3 design and engineering to be underway in 2022. And lastly, this is going to be a very large endeavor, and it's currently underway. The South Branch, Kenosha County has been working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Root Pike Wind to plan and kind of assess the South Branch, which is approximately 20,000 linear feet. And the U.S. Army Corps will be conducting a feasibility study. So right now, just data gathering and collection has been underway, and I believe the feasibility study will be conducted or finished next year. So that will be the next step, or the next big focus is to restore that 20,000 linear foot reach of the Pike River. And so with that, I'll leave it for questions. If something wasn't clear, if anyone has any other questions or comments, Feel free to follow us on our website. We try to update that regularly with this development. We're on Facebook and Instagram, or anyone can email me directly. So I'll leave it.
All right, thank you, Nancy. It was a fantastic presentation on a really, really cool project. We had one question come in right before you talked about the UWP students, and the question was, is UWP engaging students in related research? And I know you kind of went into that. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, so it's been a really cool process. There's always, I know environmental science students in the past have done like presentations or have analyzed water quality data because there's a USGS water gauge nearby pets. And so through the GLRI grant that we received in 2017, that prompted us to kind of have a more established connection with UW Parkside and as far as research and analysis. So, and now with our land use agreement, there's actually a class, Dave Rogers, he's one of the professors for environmental science, and he has a class right now that's dedicated the whole semester pretty much to on-site inventory of that Parkside development area that is that neighbors Petrifying Springs Park that is going to be involved in this whole comprehensive trail plan development. So water quality data analysis is ongoing. Students are always making presentations. Professor Rachel Headley, she's been great with leading the students with water quality. Trail plan, natural resource inventory is also underway. So we call it kind of like an outdoor classroom area that just has been a great opportunity for us to partner with Parkside. So all of the research and data collection and analysis is ongoing, and we continue to have that because data doesn't hurt. You can never have too much data, I guess.
I agree. Very cool project and partnership. The other one that we had in here was just a comment that they can't wait to go down to see how the spring migrating birds like it. Let's see, we just had one more come in. What is the key element of the trail plan? What will keep people from climbing all over the place? There's a lot of questions in here. Do you want me to go one by one maybe?
Yeah, one by one.
Okay.
Let's see if I can, yeah.
All right, let's go with the first question. What is the key element of the trails plan?
The key element, I would say, so there is a whole trail plan committee that's been established, and it includes key stakeholders in the community, not only from the county, not only from Parkside, but runners groups, the CAMBA, which is the Kenosha Area Mountain Bike Group, and just anyone who wants to have some input. So the key element to this trail plan is to rehabilitate the trails. There are a lot of rogue trails that go through UW Parkside campus. That whole area has been untouched, formally untouched. So there's a lot of rogue trails, a lot of areas that are probably not that safe to be accessed by anyone really. So the goal is to rehabilitate the trails that are there, restore the areas where trails are there that are probably not sustainable. So just restore those natural sites, and also just develop it in conjunction along the Pike River's edge so that ultimately once phases 4 through 6 are restored, the trails are also kind of developed in the sense that the trails won't disturb that restoration process or vice versa. So okay. Just we're trying to be holistic here.
Perfect. The next question in that was, what will keep people from climbing all over the place? That seems to be a huge problem.
Yeah, that is a huge problem. Again, there's with this whole planning and development, right now they're still doing a lot of inventory, and with the rogue trails, assessing which ones are going to have to be pretty much closed off, not manageable. So for safety purposes and whatnot. So I guess what would prevent people from going off, like within Petrifying Springs Park during that phase 1 restoration, we put a lot of do not step, like a lot of signage, informative signage, just kind of along the way with just some roped off areas. Hopefully just, I think with improving public awareness and maybe just some temporary signage, that might be the best way to go, but you're always gonna have those bad kids.
You're always gonna have somebody cross the road.
I was gonna have it, yeah.
Last question in this bunch. There are especially sensitive wetland fens along parts. Will those be protected during restoration, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, yes. So with the whole planning efforts, we're working with qualified consultants, engineers, with Sewer PAC, who have identified those environmentally sensitive areas, the Wisconsin DNR. And as with any project like this, you can't move forward without, having the permits and whatnot too, and completely assessing the environmental sensitivity of the site. So with all this in mind, we will conduct the project as such, but again, without, ultimately destroying or disturbing areas of concern. So again, we've got a lot of stakeholders involved, and we just hope the overall goal is just to restore our natural areas to the best of our abilities.
Okay. It doesn't look like I have any other questions here in the Q&A. So thank you for sharing that neat project. It's super cool and should be very proud of it. It's a neat project. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for having me.
So I think that's all that we have for both Emily and Nancy. So I think the next session, I believe, starts at noon. So quick, grab a drink and then jump back on here for the next one. Thank you.